Awkwardness podcast, where every episode we talk to a badass musician about their musical journey from its earliest beginnings to now. They play us one of the first songs they ever wrote, and then we talk about their progression as an artist, how that early song put them on the path to their present career. And then, we just nerd out about music and pop culture and any number of other whimsical tangents. We're your hosts. I'm Rose Sean.
Hey, I'm Terrence LeClaire.
And I'm Tony Tancredi.
I like that we nerd out.
We nerd out. Oh, we nerd out all right.
Gear.
So fun.
We're really excited today to be talking to Eric Cannata of the band Young the Giant. Their single, My Body, was in the Billboard Top 100. They've toured with Incubus, oh my god, love, played the main stage at Lollapalooza, and their songs have even appeared on Glee and American Idol. Eric is a super busy guy and has several other musical projects, including Travelers with fellow Young the Giant member Francois. Did I say that right, Terrence?
Bah oui, c'est François.
And as well as his latest self-named solo project. But Tony, I want to know how you know Eric.
Yeah, Tony, tell us. Spill the beans, Tony.
Okay, I will. Spill I shall. I met Eric through music about 200 years ago, and our bands liked each other, and he kept in contact after they got some fame, and I thought that was so dope, and we've been friends ever since. He's a rad dude, and you're going to hear all about it from him.
So amazing.
Yeah. He is indeed a rad dude.
We're gonna have a backyard hang with him.
Yeah, Eric's going to tell us. Eric's going to tell us all about the old days when he was a kid growing up in Orange County. And we like to say on this show that everyone starts somewhere. So let's get started here.
My favorite, probably.
Because I was actually. This is such a random question, but in that documentary, you were at the market and you were playing like this guitar that had F holes in it. Do you remember that? And since I have you here, it's like, what was that guitar? Just curiously.
At the market in India?
In Mumbai, yeah.
I don't remember.
That's so funny.
I don't remember what that was.
Because it was like, I guess that was like 6 years ago or something, or like something.
Yeah.
But like, I was just curious because it was just like, it looked like some kind of old Gretsch or something, but.
I vaguely remember that. But it was a regular guitar, right? It was like
American
style.
It seemed acoustic.
Western style.
Yeah, Western style.
Man,
for sure.
I love a guitar with F holes. I don't know the aesthetic of that. I'm just like, so into it.
That violin thing, Yay! Welcome, Eric, to Awkwardness.
What's up, dude?
Thanks for having me.
So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Welcome to Spencer's backyard.
Yeah,
thank you, Spencer.
Orange trees, birds singing. I don't know how much of it comes through mics, but.
You can really hear the orange.
You can really hear the orange. So, tell us about where you got started.
Yeah, okay. So I was born in New Jersey. So that's where I got started.
East Coast.
And when I was about 6 weeks old, my family moved to Orange County.
That's for the best.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful. My dad got a taste of Southern California before I was born, and then decided kind of, let's go back to California. He didn't like the cold. So, I grew up in Irvine, and when I was about 10 or so, I have two older brothers, like I said, and I have an older sister as well. And one of my older brothers, Aaron, when I was about 10 or so, and he was 15, he asked my mom for his birthday. So his birthday is July 13th. My birthday is July 20th, and my other brother, Jason's birthday is July 20th. We have the same birthday. We're 7 years apart.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So
summer party.
So I think around the time it was either a birthday or around Christmas or the holiday or something, and my brother asked my mom for a bass guitar, and my mom was going to go to Guitar Center and get him a bass guitar, or it might have been Jim's Music actually. It was Jim's Music, which was a local music store in Irvine, and I begged my mom, like, please take me. I want a guitar. Like, get me a guitar. If you're getting Aaron a bass, or get me a guitar, please, please, please. And so we went to Jim's Music, and I got my first guitar, which was a blue Squier Strat Pack, which was
nice.
It came with a little amp.
Yeah.
And,
you still have it?
I still have the Squier, the guitar. I don't think I have the amp. But yeah, I still have it, and it's just totally, it doesn't work at all. It's totally beaten up. There's like one string on it, and I have it. I actually, my parents recently moved, so I kind of got all the stuff left that, was still kind of, old like art you did in like fourth grade or whatever, and picked up like a little crate of the remnants of what I had there. And funny enough, my sister and her husband, and they just had a child, bought the house that I grew up in. So,
Oh, whoa.
yeah, so it's still in the family.
I love that.
Me too.
I
That's
love
awesome.
That.
The
Yeah.
story continues.
Yeah. So, so I got a guitar, and for the first couple years, I would try to learn, power chords. I was really into kind of like what I guess I consider like melodic punk music my brothers were listening to. Well, at the time, my oldest brother was getting into guitar as well. And, he was like, at one point had like a half stack and you know what I mean? And, but my first guitar pedal was a Metal Zone, Boss
Yeah.
Metal Zone that I still
Oh, yeah.
have, which is a great pedal.
Yeah.
So that definitely got you that like palm muted chunky guitar tone. And so, yeah, my brothers showed me bands like Face to Face, Lagwagon, Pennywise, Millencolin, No Effects, No Use for a Name, just all these bands. And then Blink-182 hit, and that was like the craze for even kids my age. So
Yeah.
I think I was listening to music that my brothers were listening to. And they're 5 and 7 years older than I am. And I didn't really know many kids who were, unless they had older siblings, they weren't really listening to that. But then Blink-182 hit, and I feel like that really took hold for a lot of people in my elementary school. And
I remember that too.
That's definitely what they were going for.
yeah.
The
And,
elementary school kids.
And so that's what I was really into. And I remember my brother would, every once in a while I'd be driving around with him and he would ask me, I remember pretty clearly, like he would ask me, what band is this? And I'd be like, I have no idea. How do you even know what band this is? And then, weeks go by and I'm in his car again. He's like, what band is this? And it kept being like, dude, how can you tell? He's like, listen to the guitar tone, listen to his voice, like listen to what, how it sounds. And after a while I was like, oh, like this is Face to Face, like this, because the voice is kind of scratchy but low, and like the guitars sound like this, and I could start hearing everything in the mix, like, oh, this is Millencolin because of these kinds of guitars, and this is blah, blah, blah. And so, that was the music that I really was like, oh, this is the music. Like, this is cool music. Because my brothers, when you have older brothers, it's hopefully, unless you have a bad relationship with them, I idolize them. I was
Totally.
like, oh, everything they like is cool.
Absolutely.
And so, so that was what I kind of was introduced with and wanted to play when I was really young. And it took about 2 years before I really picked up the guitar and became obsessed with it. So I must have been like 12 or maybe 13 years old when I think I heard my other brother playing my guitar. He was the one who got the bass, and I heard him improving. I heard him like writing something like on his own. And I was like, oh my God, like you can write your own shit. Like it was this moment of like, wait, he's getting better, and I haven't touched it in 2 years. So yeah, and then I think about 12 or 13, I really became just like obsessed with the guitar, and that was like, art and everything. I was, any art classes or anything that I wanted to do with drawing or painting was kind of like, well, that's not cool. Standing in front of my parents' glass door with the guitar over my, shoulder, pretending to be on stage. That was like the dream,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And you're living it now.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What kind of bass did he get? Do you remember?
It was like a Squire. It was like, I think it was like a 5-string Squire.
Oh, a
blue
5-string.
Squire.
So
and I think
advanced.
it's at my parents' new house. Like it's like moved, it's still in the family.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So it's your brother who made you play the guitar. He was kind of like him playing it. It's funny just because I remember like I had a Telly Squire.
Yeah.
And it was like the reason why they said the guy at Guitar Center, which is where I got mine from, was like, get a guitar that you like looking at because it'll make you want to pick it up more and it'll make you want to practice it more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's a good example with your brother. He was playing it and getting good at it. You're like, that looks awesome. I want
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
It might not be the song you wanted to play, but do you have like any like couple of bars of like some of the songs, those punk rock songs that you wrote back in those days? Just to kind of like get
I was
us.
thinking about this because
And the Moose Bouche.
I remember licks, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some of the early, and these are definitely licks that I'm sure hundreds of kids made up. I don't have a pick on me, but it doesn't matter.
You need a pick?
Sure, yeah, if you have one, just because
There's probably one around.
funny.
Tony's a pocket picker. What was the term?
That's me. I'm a pickpocket.
Pickpocket. He's got picks in his
Thank
pockets.
you.
He won't take your wallet, but he'll give you a pick.
So it was stuff like this. Like I remember this one was really early on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then like this was one of them. Yeah. And then it was like,
Oh yeah.
I'd definitely have to give a shout out to Thrice because I left them out, but Thrice was, for Irvine, especially coming from Irvine, they like, and Tepe, the guitar player, that was like, for us, when we hit high school, it was like, oh my God, Artists in the Ambulance, like that was like the stuff we were trying to
Thrice.
emulate, like whatever.
They were the coolest.
I mean,
They were the coolest, yeah.
and their name is like iconic as well. Just
Yep.
it's such a like Thrice cursive. That was such a like specific
Cursive,
time and
yes.
genre.
Yeah.
So those were like leads. Like, were you playing lead like with anybody else? Now I'm thinking your brother was like playing bass and you were playing lead, forming your own Blink 182 kind of situation.
When I went into high school, I had a group of friends, a couple friends who were also kind of obsessed with guitar or just music in general. And so I'd say one of the first bands that I was in that actually played a show, I think we played one show, was called The Mute. And,
That's a great name.
And and so I was playing bass in that band.
Nice.
So because we had our singer who played guitar, and then this other guitar player who was a year older than us, and he was, we really looked up to him. He was obsessed with John Frusciante and like the Mars Volta, so he was on like another tip, already.
Oh yeah.
He was a year older, and like he was into like kind of just shredding crazy. I mean, I remember watching him guitar solo just by himself and being like. His name's Darren, and I just remember being like, "Holy shit! Like,
how'd you
this
do
is
it?
insane."
Yeah. What is this magic?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, "All right, I'll play bass." Like, I'll play
You're like,
bass.
all right, bro. Yeah, got it.
And
Respect.
so that was the first band. I forget the question, but that was the
So
first
that
band.
was so.
So many questions. I'm like, was it your brother's bass? Did you get a new bass? Like, was it an
That
investment?
bass
in like,
must have been. I don't think it was my brother's because I definitely wasn't. It wasn't a 5-string. I think it might have been my friend Rod's, who's one of my closest friends from childhood, who I think he had this bass. It was made by the company National or something like that. It was this weird.
Oh.
It was like German. I don't remember what it was exactly, but his like uncle had given it to him years ago. When he was a kid, and I think if I remember correctly, that was the bass I was playing, and he was the bassist in the band, and then got kind of booted because we found this other guitar player, and then I became the bassist. Yeah.
so it's like, we want the bass, just not you.
Well, to this day, I mean, we probably would crack up about it, but to this day, I mean, we're still really close, and
But he's never
shout out Rod.
forgiven you. Just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Rod. No, he's definitely forgiven me for that. I don't think it was not really like, there was friends that we would play with, and then we kind of just, it would, then they might not have been as into it at the time or something, and it just didn't, I don't know. I wouldn't say we kicked anyone out. It was more just like the natural progression of who was playing at the time. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So
some
there's
people are just
no hard feelings.
Some
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are more down. So the Mute. You were how old at that point?
It was probably the beginning of high school, like
Okay.
maybe 14, maybe yeah.
Just trying to contextualize.
Yeah.
I want to know what the bar was, what the club was, that one gig.
Oh, so we played and I'm sure Tony you may have played this venue, but in Irvine there was a community center, the Heritage Park Community Center. I don't know if you ever played this. It was like right across the field from Irvine High School where we went to school.
Perfect.
Yeah, I want to say I went to a show there, though.
Yeah, there was a library, and connected to the library was this little like space with a stage, and that was kind of the place where we would go to shows, and we saw bands like Great Glass Elevators.
Yep.
Remember them?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I remember being like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like really cool, kind of psychedelic, dancey music. I don't remember exactly, but they would have Battle of the Bands there. And so we played a Battle of the Bands and we lost. And
How close did you get though? Were you like second?
well, we were really nervous.
Yeah.
And our singer.
Was it your first gig ever?
I think we had played.
Or like you?
That was like the first real gig, I would say.
Yeah.
Or like, people were there. It was like a venue with a stage and stuff.
That's
like
so
that.
cool.
Yeah. So, and I remember our singer started singing and he had a delay pedal plugged into his microphone, like for his vocals.
Trippy.
And he starts singing into the microphone and he's literally the microphone's not on or something's not working with the delay pedal or something like that.
Oh,
and so
no.
we were literally the mute for the first like song. And
Audience members are like,
Yeah,
I
you're
get it.
welcome. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
So that like
Meta.
derailed the show. Like that, like, from there on the show was just like,
Oh yeah.
my
When something like
God.
that happens in the first minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
that's
we
just-
were doomed.
I think we've
Yeah.
all been there.
And then we broke up. We were like, that was embarrassing. We're done.
After the first show, you guys broke up.
Pretty much.
Oh no.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's
Pedal.
sad. Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's just not going to work out.
Yeah. So
Right, it's so like, yeah, it's so funny how like at that age, everything is so important that it's like, oh man, yeah, this band can never exist now,
yeah, we
that blew it,
yeah, I think we were just embarrassed. I was an
Yeah,
embarrassed.
It's real. It feels so real.
Yeah. I think, it's common, I think, for a lot of people, but I think middle school to into high school, I was very awkward, very embarrassed of letting people get to know me and being, I was like really goofy and fun with the friends that I was like really close with outside of school. And then at school, I was like completely like, closed off and didn't want to engage with people for some reason.
Did music help with that?
It did eventually when I joined the Jakes, which was the band that I
Yeah.
joined that became Young the Giant in
Yeah.
high school. And so I think
You joined
that
them in high school. You were in
How
high
old were you?
school, Yeah.
I was 16 or so. I think it was 2006 or 2007, maybe.
I'm so curious about the name. I guess what made everyone? Do you know why the change from Jake's to Young the Giant?
Yeah, so I joined the Jakes in high school, and the Jakes was a band before I had joined. The only members who were at the origin of the Jakes, who are in Young the Giant, who are still in Young the Giant, are Samir and Jake. It was an acronym for their names. So it was like Jake, Adam, Kevin, Ehsan, Samir.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So it was an acronym for the members of the band when it first started. And yeah, and they were a local band. Jake, who's the other guitar player, and Samir, who's the singer, and I went to Irvine High School together. They're a year older than I am. And they were like the cool local band that would like sell out Heritage Park Community Center, and then they started playing at Disneyland, and they were doing all this
Yeah.
stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. I guess if the question was when did we change the name, why Young the Giant, we all graduated high school. We went off to college. I was at Long Beach State for just a semester. The other guys, some of them went to schools up in Northern California, and so everyone started college, and we're a year to 2 years in. I had just started college because I'm the youngest, and after a semester, we decided let's take a year off of school, and we like pitched it to our parents very seriously, like in a meeting with
I
like
love that.
manila folders and everything.
Ah,
We had like a plan, like we're gonna move to Newport Beach and we're gonna try to get signed, and if we
Dude, I love that.
get signed
Love it.
by a major record label by before the start of the new school year, then we'll take a stab at it and do the band thing. And if we don't get signed by a major record label, then we'll all go back to school. I don't know if I would have gone back to school. I was like, I'm going to Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
and
yeah, right.
Eating
Yeah.
mushrooms and be a hippie.
Yes.
But no, everyone was very serious about college as well. And on July 20th, which was my 19th birthday, 2009, we got signed. We got a offer from Roadrunner Records.
happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday to you. Wow.
That must have been an amazing birthday.
I know.
Yeah, there were some good birthdays in those like late teens, like 18, 19 years old. It was a lot of fun. Just in general, that age is. I feel like leaving high school.
Yeah.
I so wish that I could have witnessed you guys collectively telling your parents that you were leaving college.
Right. I can picture it now with the folders.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into my head was like, oh, I bet your parents loved that. But it sounds like they were pretty supportive.
What I remember happening was we moved to Newport Beach and we had a big party for like 6 months.
Nice.
Because
Would you play at the party, or was it more just like party?
No, we were living by the beach and we weren't going to school, and and we could have taken it much more seriously in the regards of like, we need to buckle down and write a bunch of music right now, which we eventually did after about 6 months of just like freedom, like,
You're
oh my
like-
God, like this is amazing. So we wrote a couple of songs in the first like half a year that we were off, school, and we would play shows because we had written an EP called Shake My Hand, and we recorded it, and this was before we left, before we stopped going to school. So we had like written and recorded the EP in maybe the summer of 2008 or something like that, and then we went off, or summer of 2007 maybe. I'm terrible with dates and stuff, but then we ended up going off to college, and we had this EP, and that was what was kind of allowing us to play those shows, is because we had this we had these 7 songs, and we had been writing a few more songs, and so we had this body of work, and small body of work, and one of the songs on the EP is a song called Cough Syrup. Mm-hmm. And so that song was heard by an A&R person who was working at Roadrunner Records. And I think that if I remember correctly, the drummer of the Jonas Brothers showed him the song.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
Or
that's
something like
interesting.
that.
Yeah.
Showed the A&R guy, because he was friends with this A&R guy. But a few months before I joined, my sister showed the record, or showed the music, the Jake's music, to my cousin who was going to school at USC for music business,
Oh, perfect.
and he really liked the record. And so I remember going to a show with my sister and my cousin to see the Jakes before I had joined, and cut a few months later, maybe 6 months, I don't remember exactly the timeline, that I ended up actually joining the band. But so my cousin was helping, and is still one of the managers of the band to this day. And he was helping book shows for us. So really a big reason why we stayed together during that period of time that we all went off to college was we had someone saying, hey, you have 2 shows this month. So guys who are up in Northern California, you come down and play these shows. And he was helping us get these shows in LA. And I think he was doing his best to, at the time, push the EP out there.
He believed in you guys,
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was a huge help. And one thing led to another. And this A&R guy heard Cough Syrup, one of the songs that was on the record, and wanted to sign us.
It's a great song.
And it ended up on Glee,
And it ended up on Glee.
It's everywhere.
which is how
yeah.
you know you've made it, actually.
Didn't like a church or something in Texas like picket you guys or protest you guys because of that song, or some weird BS like that?
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily that particular song. It might have been
okay.
part of that song, I guess, because of lean and people drinking cough syrup as a drug. But the Westboro Baptist Church, they
Not listeners of the show.
they picketed a show of ours in the Midwest. I can't remember exactly where it was.
They picketed a show.
I saw photos online. It was pretty gnarly.
That's what they like to do. They like to pick it.
Yeah, it was kind of like a interesting rite of passage or something. It was just like, and they put out like a article. I don't know what I guess they put out like these kind of one sheet memos of like, this band is the Antichrist because they talk about drugs, and
Wow.
they're not spreading the God's word and stuff like that. And they said something like that we purposely don't comb our hair or something, or don't groom our beards. Or something.
What?
It was like pretty bizarre, which we didn't. I don't comb my hair. I don't have
Yeah.
any hair left. So.
So they were right.
But what's funny, this is kind of silly, but like when I first heard Cough Syrup, I was trying to understand what that song was about. And I just imagine it's this guy who's like sick and he's trying to get better and he's thinking about all the things he's going to do once he gets better. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and I think
I didn't think of it like, oh, recreationally drinking.
that's not at all, and that's not at all what we were singing about. It wasn't about recreational drugs. It was what you took from it. I think is really at the core of the song, which is being somewhere you don't want to be and getting and improving your life in some way and feeling freer and more light and going from a stagnant place to an adventurous place, really. And I think that what you took from it is maybe, to me as a part of the band, amazing takeaway from the song, because we see people singing it and out when we play shows, and that makes me happy to hear that that's your takeaway, because it's maybe has connected with people in a positive way of like, I want to improve my circumstance, or I want to feel better about where I am or something like that.
Hey, that song is good medicine.
Yeah. I will say, I did sort of assume that it was about taking cough syrup recreationally because there was I did let a cousin.
Then the song would have been called Robotrip.
Yeah, I did let a cousin talk me into robo-tripping one time, and I don't recommend it.
So before we get too far down that path, not robo-tripping, but songwriting, like, so early songs, we heard a couple riffs of back in your punky days, but was there a song that you wrote like pre-Jake's, like around that era, maybe like around the era of the Mutes or something? Was there a song that you wanted to share that was like kind of an early songwriting attempt?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard for me to figure out what like a full-on song I could sing, because there was a lot of fragmented songs that I feel like I wrote, and I don't have, and I got into recording young when I was about 14 or so. I got Cubase.
Oh, wow.
I know.
And so
that's where I started.
Yeah, Cubase
Yes.
LE7, I think it was. My parents taught me, and I'm so glad that they did. And so I have recordings somewhere on, like, I think my parents have a computer in their garage sitting there that I don't know if it works, and things I could remember from when I was younger. Like, I remember this idea that song I had, there was a band after the Mute called Downside Up, which was like the Jack Johnson kind of band.
Oh, cool.
So I remember that one was like,
Yeah.
You never asked if I understood anything you ever said. Something like that, The answer's no. The joke's on you that I never. That's all and I can't like remember anything out.
Yeah,
and so there's like the Jack Johnson era obsession of like the acoustic band, and then
Were you like the main songwriter for that band?
No, it was me and the other singer who was the singer of the Mute. And yeah, and then from there, I remember, I was always into kind of just writing songs on the acoustic guitar and like folk music. And so, later I started a band called Travelers, which was with a couple of the same guys that I had been playing music for a while. That was a mix of that record that we put out. That wasn't years later till we put out the record, but I was writing kind of folk songs by myself, and then it was a mix of those songs with songs that the other guys in the band were writing, or songs that we had written together. And one of them, which is on that record that came out in like 2015 or something, is called Pope John Paul, and that was one I wrote when I was younger. That's like this. Pope John Paul left a note on my wall telling me that I'm too far away, and all of his saints, they will fall to the ground, and they'll pray that their women will follow. Every time
And all of the bears, they will stare at my face. Will they mind if I shave off my beard? I haven't been here for a year, and I'm scared that they won't recognize me at all. Hibernating bears, hippie love and fears, the same old things every time, every time. Every time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
your voice sounds amazing.
Oh, it
Thank
sounds
you.
so
That's,
good.
and you wrote that when you were how old?
That must have been around like 17 or 18.
Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration?
Yeah, I think that I remember writing it. I would write songs in my parents have in the house that now my sister lives in. There's like a kind of like a bedroom downstairs that we called the music room, and yeah, I would write songs in there. They had like a little twin bed that like a guest could sleep on, or kind of like a couch bed thing, and yeah, I just remember writing. I was getting really into finger picking. And I just remember kind of playing this lick, and I just found when I was younger, I just enjoyed certain ideas like phrases or like things that didn't really make too much sense to me, like Pope John Paul. Like I literally at the time had no idea who that was. I just heard about Pope John Paul. It was just sounded cool to me. It was like yeah, and I really have no idea. I mean, Pope John Paul left a note on my wall telling me that I'm too far away, and all the saints, they will fall to the ground, and they'll pray that their women will follow. I don't think I had any idea what that meant. I think at the time I was just thinking that it sounded really, the words sounded interesting together.
Yeah.
And then in retrospect, looking at it, I feel like, yeah, it was really just like imagery. I feel like when I was younger, I was a little bit more free in using imagery that I didn't really know what it meant. And as I got older, I feel like, and what lived more or whatever, I tend to, when I write stuff for myself or when I'm writing by myself, especially with an acoustic guitar, I tend to, I feel like, go into a more personal realm. And whereas when I was younger, I feel like there was a little bit more like, I remember I had another song called Flying Fish, and the lyrics were like, I lost my best friend to the mountains. He flew away like Mary Poppins. And every day I hear him, hear him talking under the wind and inside the breathing tree or something like that. And it was just like these kind of a little more tripped out imagery,
Yeah.
almost like fairy
Makes me
tale.
think of like Yellow Submarine or something, like that kind of art,
Well, you were less constrained by like, I feel like as you sort of, hone a craft, you start being like, well, it needs to make sense or it needs to mean something. But maybe when you're just trying it out, it's like, this just sounds cool. Pope John Paul left a note on my wall is a pretty dope rhyme scheme.
It is, yeah.
That's got like,
it was beautiful.
It's a great flow. Like that whole first verse,
Yeah.
it has like a really
Thank
beautiful
you.
sonic flow, and it sounds like it means something.
I just remember, thinking more about just the feeling and the sounds of the words, not as much the meaning for sure. And it's always like something you try to almost get back to. I feel like a lot of people talk about that, trying to get back to that innocent childlike mind. And someone that I admire who I think does a good job at, not necessarily being so, like this has to mean something right away. I really admire Jeff Tweedy and how he writes. And
Yeah.
I read his one of his books called How to Write One Song. And And it was cool. Like, one of the things he talks about is just kind of words in general, and just interesting words. And like, he has songs like, the assassins down the avenue, and like not knowing what it means, but the phrase feeling really interesting. And then it finding meaning in it maybe after the fact, or doing something where you write a whole song of mumble, which we do a lot, with Young the Giant as well. And I do a lot in general when I'm writing, is find melodies that I really like and just mumble and try to feel as loose as and in a flow state as much as I can. And then you start picking out words in the mumble, and all of a sudden this song has a meaning. And I think a lot of people find that when they write that way, and when it does work in that way, there's almost this like magic that happens where you didn't even write the song.
Yes.
It's that other factor that, you channeled something that you didn't even realize you had.
Yeah, that's the juice.
What was the transition from like punk rock Squire Strat to like acoustic and finger picking? Was it like, you have an amazing, gorgeous Gibson that we should take a picture of?
Yeah.
But like, is that an old guitar? Is that like, how did that all happen?
So yeah, this I bought maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And the transition for me, I don't remember when I got my first acoustic. I think it was like an Ibanez. It's like this orange sunburst, like Ibanez with like the cutaway and the electronic, the plug-in and everything. I think that was my first acoustic guitar. I was really into kind of the melodic punk stuff that my brothers were showing me. But as I got older, I started getting really into. I was obsessed with Bright Eyes. Like, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning came out, and that was like in my car.
So good.
I was driving my brother's like '98 Mustang, and like that was on repeat. And but then also Bob Dylan, and then when I was pretty young, actually, my brother Aaron came home from college. He was going to school in Santa Cruz, and his roommate in freshman year showed him the song "The General" by Dispatch. You ever hear that song?
I don't think so, no.
It's like, he was a stories he told of past battles won, lost, and legends of old. A seasoned veteran in his own time, on the battlefield he gained respect. It's a song. The band is called Dispatch. They're like kind of an East Coast jammy band, like in that world, in the like, maybe OAR and Dave Matthews Band kind of thing. But that particular song, I remember him showing me, and then he showed me the blues scale. He's like, I think his roommate may have taught him the blues scale, the pentatonic, blues scale, and showed me that like if he plays, simple, I could, jam along with it. And that was kind of at the moment, when I was like, because when he was going to college, he's 5 years older than I am. So if he was going to college when he was 17, 18 years old, I was 13. This is when I got really into the guitar. It's because I was like, wow, like, I loved this one song and it kind of had a bluesy feel. And I really, kind of got into the blues and blues licks.
It was like the aha moment.
Yeah, like open the door of like improvisation. Like if a friend just play these 2 chords, these 3 chords, and I'll jam on it. Like let's play, like when you do a jam with friends and someone is playing bass and they're literally just going, you know what I mean? And then the drummer's like, oh yeah, boom, 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 and then you're just like, and then it's all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, like this is more than just like,
yeah.
And so I got really into the playing blues. I never really got into listening to blues. I got into like just playing blues, the blues scale, and tinkering with that, and just scales, just that scale. I never really got into taking many lessons or getting into the theory side of things, but yeah, I got into like kind of the folk and blues-ish world, and then just interested in that, and then so I think I realized at some point that the music that my dad had been listening to there was much more depth in that. I think as you get older, you're like, oh, wait a minute, like this Tom Petty song's awesome. Or, my dad's from Jersey, so it's like, Bruce Springsteen and Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty. These were the things that he was listening to. Yes, and like ELO, and Rod Stewart.
Sure, yeah.
Billy
I
Joel.
love Rod Stewart.
Billy Joel, East
And
Coast. Yeah.
so Elton John. So these things were like, oh wow, like this is really incredible music. And so anyway, you kind of grow up and you realize that one thing isn't everything. Like, if I was like, this kind of punk music is everything, this is the coolest, then you're like, wait a minute, there's actually all this other cool stuff. And
Yep.
so
Well, it's like a very teenage thing, right? Of
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I am defined by this one kind of
Yeah.
music that I like. This is who I am as a
Oh, yeah.
person. And then you start listening to different kind of music, and you feel like you have to like reinvent your personality now
Yep.
because you're not
Oh,
like
yeah.
punk anymore or something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's true.
No, true.
True.
It's definitely true. And so yeah, and then at one point I got really obsessed with this one type of finger picking, which I don't even necessarily know what the style of finger picking is. I think there's a style called the Charlie something style finger picking. I think that might be something similar to what I do, but with it's basically you're playing the bass
Yeah.
with your thumb, and then really I just use mostly the pointer finger and your
Sure,
middle
yeah.
finger. So like licks like cough syrup came from like from that kind of finger picking
It's a very
style.
folky riff, yeah.
And so and even like I remember My Body, the song My Body by Young the Giant. I remember we were living in West Hollywood we were living right off of Sunset Boulevard across the street from the Guitar Center.
Oh
in
boy,
Sunset.
it all comes back to Guitar Center, baby.
And I had bought. They have a vintage room in the back, and I had found this cheap
Oh,
amp.
that's a beautiful room at that
I
one.
know the
yeah.
one.
So we used to just go in there and be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
And so I bought a new amp. It was a Trainer amp, and I still have it, and it's like pretty big amp. And I got it home with it, and I put it in my bedroom. And we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment, the 5 of us, and the upstairs was like a loft where there were 2 beds because 2 of the guys slept up there, and then like the drums were wedged between the beds, and that's where we would jam and write stuff. And I remember getting the Trainer amp and messing around with like just to kind of like I can't even play it on this guitar, but I'll play it down here to give you an idea. Something like that, and then just switching the root. And anyway, I come upstairs and we just kind of start jamming on those 2 chords and this, and then, Fran, our drummer, and our bass player, it was F or whatever, and Samir, starts singing, and within a matter of like 15, 20 minutes, My Body, the song, was kind of born.
That's so
and,
rad.
Still to this day, there's, I think, a influence of this licks that are written in a very, folky, almost like finger-picked way, then presented in like an indie rock band, I guess.
Well,
On
but I mean, it's all
electric,
yeah. I mean, it's funny because anything you play on an acoustic guitar sounds folky, basically. But yeah, if you play it on an electric and then like add delay or something, all of a sudden it's this different thing.
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot actually about writing guitar, but I'm kind of curious when it came to like making the solo EP that you made. What
Lonely Beast.
what was your sort of approach to like lyric writing? And I mean, was that something you've been focused on in the past, or are you do you infofamouspeople.com said you're a celebrity guitarist, so I don't know if you knew that.
Celebrity guitarist.
He is.
He's new Lindsay.
But yeah, so I mean, had you previously been sort of more guitar focused and then kind of shifted gears, or have you always been like kind of into writing lyrics?
I've always been into writing lyrics since I was a kid. Since I got the guitar, and from the first time writing a song, and like I said, my parents got me this computer program that could magically record me, and so once I figured out how to put a mic and record something, or whatever, I was writing lyrics and writing songs, and yeah, so it was always, I think, for me, hand in hand, like playing guitar and singing. In terms of, it wasn't always hand in hand in the sense that when I was learning to play guitar as a kid, I wasn't automatically playing and singing. That was very hard. I was like, how do you even do that?
Yeah.
That was so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And standing up and playing, I'm like, how does anybody remember that? You're like, how do you do that? So I would
impossible.
just stand there standing up. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is, so, you know.
My friend Lucas McDuffie would wear it, like, you know, this was in high school, and we had like a talent show or something. And yeah, he was a really good guitar player, but he would wear his guitar like up here because he said it was
I
the
would too.
closest thing to playing sitting down.
with it. Yeah.
Oh, I used to play
that
with
was
it
a
so
look
high.
too.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah. And
it meant the people who really knew how to play guitar back then, they had their guitars way up. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like,
and
oh, they're
so-
going to do some cool stuff.
But
Watch.
it's still like there's a certain threshold of height where it's like, no, that's actually unnatural too. Like, let's just chill out and like keep it melt. Like,
I feel like last time I saw you play, you had it up pretty high.
yeah, I did it for a while, and then more recently I've had it at a more just standard, like, you know, standard place.
like acoustic or electric?
Both.
Both,
like
yeah.
when, like, cause I'm not I'm not a huge person. So like when we'd have like guitar techs try to put my guitar strap over their head to tune, they always would just put it on their shoulder. Cause they're like, dude, this is like, what do you, and my head's tiny. Like I have a tiny head. So it's like, you know what I mean? So I would have it really high. And I think I mellowed out on that a little bit, but yeah,
I do think it's a cool look though.
yeah, no,
It
I
works
think,
like, yeah.
yeah, I think, you know, there's a band, Phoenix is a band I really, really like. And
He wears it high,
They
too.
wear their guitars very high, and it is a cool kind of thing. It's definitely a fashion statement.
I feel like it's old school in a way, like the old folk singers used to do that. Like maybe Woody Guthrie, like that was just the way you wore your guitars back then.
Yeah,
I was listening to your EP this morning, and I love it.
thank you.
It's great, dude.
you so much.
I
know.
guess
I love another song. And I love Lonely Beast, obviously. Oh, lyric wise, real quick, like, do you still write lyrics with that channeling sense for like this album, or was there the new like methods of lyric writing?
For Lonely Beast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still that
I think it's
gibberish
both.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's both. When I'm writing on guitar by myself, I tend to just sing melodies, and I'll just have my phone in a place where I can hear the guitar and my voice, and yeah, I've had the song "Lonely Beast" for years. So that song I wrote like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, from a pretty young age, I was really interested in writing these kind of folk songs. And I always thought, oh, maybe one day I'll put something together and put something out. And there was a period after a breakup where it was like 2017 or something like that in the summer. And I had just moved to live by myself. And it was the first time I'd ever lived alone. And I just remembered being like immersed in, I was reading a lot of a guy named Jyoti Krishnamurti, who was kind of seen as like a guru figure in a way, but he was very much against religion and gurus in general.
That's funny.
Yeah, so he's very interesting, but in the beginning of the EP, the first voice you hear is his from a lecture, and he says, "What is freedom?" And so I was thinking a lot about the idea of freedom in relationship to people, and living alone for the first time, and having been broken up with for the first time. I had been in relationships where I was the one who broke up with the person, but I'd never been broken up with. And I read a line in one of his books that said, it was talking about how he said, when someone is, you know, I am left, I am lost, I am lonely, and saying how, you know, this idea of loneliness and being left is not necessarily it's not a bad thing, that looking inward and solitude and looking inwardly is kind of where you find the truth in it all. And so that was kind of the catalyst, you know, for that EP, was initially that idea of being left in a good way, being left over, being the last remaining thing to just look at yourself, rather than being continuously kind of distracted by all the energy of other people and other things and distractions in your life. And so it was just at that time a very self-reflective time for me. And so I ended up writing for most of the 3 of the 5 songs in that month and recording demos of them. And then I had this other song that I'd been writing called When I Die, which is on there. And Lonely Beast was actually not going to make the record. I wasn't even thinking about recording it. And so I went in to record the EP with John O'Brien, who is the engineer and producer that I work with a lot, who's also in another band of mine with me and the drummer from Young the Giant called Coma Culture. And so so I wanted to do the EP with John, and he said, originally I wanted to play everything, and I'm a mediocre drummer, and I could play things with strings on them, but I was like, I want to play everything. I'm playing drums, I'm playing that. I want it to be a solo EP. It's just Eric. That's the only name on there. And
man.
And he's like, what if I put together a band of guys you've never met? Like, I'll put together a band of a few guys and just come in having never met these guys and just like record. We'll do one day with the band, and then the next day we'll just do the vocals and finish it. And so we did that, and he put together this awesome band. Drummer's name is Levi, bass player's name is Dave, and the piano / pedal steel player, I'm feeling so bad right now because I'm just blanking on his name, and he was such an incredible player, and I'll think of it and have to shout
really
it out.
enjoyed
I
that
know,
part of it.
Oh my God.
And I read that
can't
just
believe
recently too, and he was so good.
Yeah, I feel
You know
so
what?
bad.
I love
we'll,
that pedal
we'll make
steel on
sure
that.
we
Yeah, we'll make sure we include that because it's just a brain fart. I apologize. I think it's Jeremy. Anyway, so I went in, and in that day we recorded these 4 songs, and Lonely Beast wasn't one of them. And we had about 20. We did 4 songs live together. Acoustic. I was on this guitar. We had the piano player / pedal steel player either on piano or pedal steel that first day, and then the drummer and the bass player. So we did all the instrumentals live, and at the very end of the day, we had about 20 minutes left, and I was like, sometimes I get on one in studio sessions where I'm just so pumped that I'm like, we can just record something. Like, let's just record something else. We have 10 minutes. Let's go. Let's record something. So I was like, we had 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, I have a bunch of songs. Like, let's record another song. And so I really at the time didn't have many like finished songs prepared. And I was like, oh, but I have this song, Lonely Beast, I've had for a while, blah, blah, blah. And so I literally, played the song for them one time in the control room, just played them the song, sang it, showed them the chords, and we went in there into the live room, and we did 2 takes. I think it was the second take, and then the day was done.
Wow.
Dude, that's amazing.
And it was like had the chills. I was like, wow, like that felt really good. I don't know if that's even going to be on there, but that felt really good. I'm so stoked we did that. Because I've been in sessions before where I have those ideas where I'm like, well, let's just do one more thing, and it's a lot of times people are like, you're crazy, dude. Stop being here.
Yeah. We have 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Come
you're
on,
crazy.
Man. Yeah.
Like, we got to pack up and stuff. But that was such a good. It was the first time where, because it was a full-on solo endeavor, I was the full-on director and kind of producer of it, of saying like, no, we have 20 minutes, let's just do it, and everyone's like, sure,
it's my 20 minutes, man.
Your name's on this thing,
Yeah.
so whatever you want to do. And I'm so glad we did, because the next day I came back, I recorded vocals, and we did some, me and John just by ourselves added some flavors, some synth and mellotron, whatnot, and percussion, and so yeah, that was a product of 2 days in the studio. And granted, there were demos prior to that, so there was a basis to go off of what songs we were recording, this kind of thing. But I was going to call the EP "I Am Left," and then I was like, wait a minute, Lonely Beast is more stronger
really
name,
strong.
and decided to put the song on there, and I'm glad that I did, because people seem to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot. I mean, the whole vibe of the EP resonated with me a lot, but like, especially now that you've explained it, the kind of where the place that it was all coming from, it really resonates with me as well. That idea of like, being left alone as a good thing rather than like, oh, I'm left alone. This time to sort of like be introspective and grow.
Right.
So do you have one of your contemporary songs you'd like to play?
Well,
for us?
can we hear Lonely Beast? We've been talking about it.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
mother's gone. I am just a simple one, sleeping through the sun. Come and see what human touch can do to me. Help me make it through my week. I'm just a lonely beast. Windows cracked, I'll hear you when you come right back. I'll see you when the day turns black. You coming back? Company, I always hate the company. You'd think someone could comfort me. Instead they lock me up. La da 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 dum. La da 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 da.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Man.
I can't believe that wasn't even planned to be on the record. That's so wild.
I know.
You know,
So good.
we kind of have to wrap it up, but I was wondering if you might want to tell us about Terrence the tour guide.
Yeah, definitely. So Terrence Bradley was a man who lived in Mumbai, and we went there to play a music festival about 3 hours north of Mumbai with Young the Giant at a winery, which India isn't necessarily known for wineries, but this was someone who started a winery. And so the first morning we were there, our bass player, Payam, he tends to just wake up early in general.
I love that.
And he met someone, I can't remember what his name was, who he met, but he met someone who went and I think got a tea with him and kind of was showing him around and said, "Oh, you should meet, this man, Terrence Bradley. He'll give you a tour of the city later." And so they ended up kind of stumbling upon Terrence sitting on the steps somewhere and got to talking to him and had a plan to meet outside of the hotel at a certain time, 8, 9 in the morning. So I had woken up by that point and I went to breakfast at the hotel and Payam's there talking about this guy who's going to take us on a tour if anyone wants to go on the tour. So we ended up going on the tour, and it was an incredible tour of Mumbai, and he was a very nice man. He took us through the slums. He took us to the laundry district. He took us to the Thieves Market, which was really, really interesting. It had everything like car parts, and what they said was that if you left like your bike or your car nearby within like the day, it would be like basically taken apart and sold for pieces at the market. And really a lot of interesting stuff like antiques, and it was so much. I remember like old coins and old art, and it was really incredible. I believe it's called the Chor Bazaar. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The Chor Bazaar, that's the Thieves Market. So that was really interesting. And we just spent a day with this guy going in and out of bars and walking and taking trains all around Mumbai. And it was a really incredible experience. I'm very grateful that Payam got up early and met this man. And
highly recommend watching it. It's on YouTube. Check out that documentary. It's so great. Man, this has been so wonderful and so peaceful outside with you.
Yes.
Let's hear it for
Thank
Eric,
you.
man.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much.
Thank you.
And you played so many songs. We're so lucky.
I know.
Yeah,
I
no
know.
problem.
We got like bonus songs.
All good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that was our interview with Eric Cannata from Young the Giant, Travelers, Coma Culture, and 8 million other bands. Eric has so much new music coming soon. Young the Giant's 5th album, American Bollywood, is coming out in 4 acts. Acts 1, Origin, and 2, Exile, are out now. This is their first release under their own independent label, Jungle Youth. They are also touring the US in October. Coma Culture's 2nd album and a new solo record are also in the works. So, of course, you can find all his various projects on Spotify or wherever you stream music. You can also follow him on Instagram at Eric_Cannata. You can follow us on Instagram too at Rockwardness, which you probably already know how to spell. We will, of course, put all of this information plus more info about the random things we talked about in our show notes. And if you enjoyed the show, we really hope you'll subscribe, rate, and review.
Yes.
That's what helps us get into the algorithm and into more ears. So thank you for listening. This is our very first episode. We hope you'll check out our other interviews with Double Wish, Bob Love, John Velasquez, and Alice Gray, and more to come every week. We'll see you next time.
Yay, thanks so much,
see
guys.
ya.